On the wall, the juice inside. These recipes for war, boil up my appetite. Then let me can't afford to take the lie.
Thank you very much. Want to begin by getting your names, actually, your name and what instrument you play and your band. And yeah, talk to me too.
Okay, yeah, Brandon Patton. I play guitar mainly, and I was. Do I just do like the stuff I was into?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for a short time, I was in this band called Ursa Major, which was like a hot second. Picked up bass for the first time, but they didn't really like. It seemed like it was going well, but I just ended up getting cut out and not even being told. Then I ended up in the Velvet Revolver tribute, so it was Revolver tribute to Velvet Revolver. Did a couple shows at Pops, opened up for Undertow and Grind, and out of state Alice in Chains band, tribute band.
Yeah.
Which that was fun.
I remember Undertow actually.
Yeah.
The tour tribute. That'd be a fun gig.
And now I'm in YOUPEOPL. So.
Yeah, nice. So when did you start playing? When was Ursa Major? What year was that?
Well, I want to say maybe 2013 or 14, something in there.
Okay, so relatively recently. Cool. All right.
Yeah, I started learning how to play guitar like right after I graduated high school. So it was like the whole practice, study, do your homework. You're paying for this kind of dynamic there.
Yeah. So we'll dive into Pops a little bit too. I know that scene somewhat. Yeah. And to your left we have
Brandon Mason. I mostly play keyboards these days. I started on piano as a kid, and then switched to. I wanted to play guitar, but my friend had a bass, so that's what I played. My brother got a bass, and then finally I got one. I eventually picked up guitar, but I don't really play that in bands. Just use it for writing. But mostly keyboards these days.
Yeah.
I lived in Panama for a few years, and my first band was down there. It was a punk, mostly cover band, like hardcore stuff. Black Flag and Ramones. And played bass with them. It was two guys that lived in Panama, the Canal Zone, and then I was in the Air Force. There was another Air Force guy that was our vocalist. And then I came here and just messed around with, random people, just tried to get things going. Nothing worked, and I ended up playing with the Helium Tapes, and that was a pretty long-standing gig. I started out on bass with them and then moved to keyboards, and we got a new bass player. And after that, I did the same thing where I played with Cave of Swords for a minute, which was the band that spun out of the Helium Tapes. You know them. You played with them too.
Yeah.
And played bass with them, wrote a little bit of stuff on keys, and then ended up doing calling people up and saying, hey, you want to play? And things started and stopped, started and fizzled. And then I ended up in a band called XOX. I played with them for probably 3 years, played bass.
When was that?
What is it now, 2018?
Yeah.
About 2014, probably.
So Helium Tapes was...
Ended in 2009.
Okay.
So there was a big stretch. Cave of Swords I was only in for under a year.
Yeah.
Probably around a year. And then I quit XOX pretty recently, like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
When YOUPEOPL started. It was just with family life and all the other stuff that I have going on, work and everything. It was too hard to be in two bands.
Yeah.
Some people can do it. I can't.
Sorry, guys. sorry, not sorry.
So I decided to just do YOUPEOPL, and that's it. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. My parents moved out of the inner city when I was before I was born, really, and moved to kind of suburbs, and it was a mostly white neighborhood, and so the music I was surrounded with was white music. It was rock, pretty much. So when I first started becoming really aware of what popular music was, it was pretty much rock. My dad listened to a lot of Philly soul and jazz, old R&B. So I got the early exposure to black music, but it just wasn't what I was drawn to. in my formative years. But it was there kind of all along. So I always, listened to Stevie Wonder when none of my friends were listening to Stevie Wonder, and Cameo when none of my friends listened to Cameo. So it was always there, but it wasn't like stuff that made me feel like I was cool, that I belonged with my peers. Because the school I went to was probably 75% white, 22% Latino in the like in high school. The other couple students were black. So, So that's rock was just on the radio. That's what all my friends were listening to.
It's funny you say white music. I I didn't know rock and roll's origins, true origins.
Right.
And I would have answered a lot differently, but I was asked a lot too. Why are you playing this white boy shit? It's like, but lo and behold, Sister Rosetta Tharpe,
right.
Boogie Woogie, Chuck Berry,
Bo
Little
Diddley,
Richard.
Yeah.
I mean, this is black roots.
Yep.
So Brandon, Patton, did you ever encounter, like, how did you come into playing rock music, and especially guitar too?
Well, I was always around it. My dad was a musician, so he played saxophone and piano, and I played saxophone in middle school in my last year of high school, but I just grew up on everything from the Motown stuff to Journey, Toto, Yes, Kansas Sticks.
Yeah.
There's a million others that my dad was just into all kinds of music, and like I said earlier when we were just kind of talking, I talked to my cousin about it, and we were kind of talking, and I just consider myself lucky to be introduced to so many kinds, because not everyone gets a chance to have that, see that other side. And I definitely get what Brandon was saying when, they were like, oh, why are you listening to that white music? Because I went to school in the city, St. Louis Public Schools, even though I went to a magnet school in high school. That was something I kind of felt like I had to hide.
Yeah.
I listened to it when I was at home or with my dad, kind of stuff, as opposed to around, my peers at school. Because did
you hear people asking, you felt like you said you needed to hide it. Was there any pressure, or were there people that would like verbally, out and out make fun or question you?
Yeah, middle school, I guess, is the thing that really kind of got me there, because I stood out in middle school. Yeah. I obviously don't talk like a lot of people do. I didn't dress like people did, so I got picked on a lot, made fun of for whatever. Yeah. Even though I got good grades and that kind of thing, but it was, I stood out, so I wasn't, like, a great percentage of my middle school class were part of gangs and that kind of thing, and I wasn't. Yeah. So you were seeing this from the black side of the coin, and Mason, did you get the same?
No, I always felt weird because, being one of the few black kids in my school, and then the other black kids all listen to black music. Yeah. Like, who do I relate to? I was always in this state of not feeling like I had, true peers that were like me. And it makes for a pretty alienating experience. Right. Yeah. There weren't a lot of, black kids in my neighborhood growing up. So it was just me, Yeah. And my family, my brother. And my best friend was black, but he was in the same boat as I was. He was into, like, metal and stuff. Shout out to Kevin. Kevin Powell. So, we had that in common. I was more into punk and he was more into metal, but we at least were in the same end of the spectrum. That was it.
So talk about the proper speech, you said you grew up...
Yeah, I grew up in white suburbs, and so, my parents are both well educated, and so I talked proper. I'd go down to visit my extended family in L.A., in Compton area, Inglewood, and they would just rip on me. Why you talk so proper. It was really kind of disorienting. I'm trying to learn how to code switch, but I know I'm not pulling it off. Yeah, and it just added to that kind of alienation and not really feeling like I fit. Yep. And so when I'm talking like myself around white people, I don't feel very self-conscious most of the time. But then black friend walks up, and I gotta
You change a little bit. Yeah,
it's something that just we all deal with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me about Brandon Patton.
Well, like this is one of those, what is it, like meat and potatoes things for me too. It's just like, and then I was an anthropology minor in college too, so it's bringing back these discussions of like performance and performativity. You're performing an identity, and it made me think back to this one instance in high school. We actually had some visitors in the class, and any other time I'd kind of perform the, like, not talk as proper as I knew I could or would normally do outside of school.
It's that ebony urban twinge would come in. I remember that.
And we had some visitors helping in with the class discussion or teaching a lesson or something, and I can't remember if I asked a question or I said something out, had a response to a question, and I started talking, visitors. I'm like, I got to make sure they don't think I'm stupid, or whatever. And this girl that's sitting next to me, she turns to me, she goes, "You don't talk like that." And I was like, "Well, I really do, but and that was part of why I got the flack I did in middle school too. I was just, like I said, I was different than most of the people that went there.
We talked about kids, being so open about it, and why you talk so plain and proper. Do you hear any of that kind of pressure, like either they're expecting you to, I guess, like we talked about the band name, when we were naming the band, we were going to call it Thugs, so that they would see us and they would automatically assume
have an expectation.
that we're going to rap, and then they'd hear what we do. Do you still get any of that expectation?
I think it's just internalized to the point where I think I know what other people are going to see from me or what they expect from me.
Yeah. And
I try to project that. And I think, black adults or adults of color, period, in the corporate world are gonna
That's good. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's just a common experience, really. Is trying to decide where it is that you need to switch, the code switch your dialect, switch your mannerisms to fit in with your, who you're around. So.
Does that say something about us, though? That we're, and I do it too. I mean, but do you think we still have to do that? And I'm kind of asking, fuck them.
Yeah. No,
at this point, I'm 43 years.
Right.
Old. Whether it's my family, or a friend, black or white, I talk like this.
Yeah, that's pretty much me too. I might, I don't know, if it's people I'm comfortable around, I might switch a little bit. But yeah, that's it. I have a little narrow range of mannerisms, and I stay in there. So.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, do you feel any different about those kind of situations now? Like, do you still feel that same pressure today as you did when you were coming up in, say, middle school and high school? Like, to either perform, if you're around black friends and family, do you feel like you switch your demeanor or your speech patterns, as opposed to when you're playing with, Velvet, or Revolver, excuse me. It was a Revolver? Yeah.
Well, yeah, not really. Like, I feel like I'm kind of like Brandon over here. There's maybe a narrow area where I do, but I kind of think once I got to college, and because I went to Webster, so, being in Webster Groves, it was more of I was like, okay, I can actually be me now. Like, I don't have to do that. And like you said, fuck them.
Right.
I'm me.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Right. Right.
We were kind of talking before this, and it made me think to something that only happened like a couple weeks ago, actually. I went to see ALI, and some guy I had never met before decides to make a joke about, hey, you got all that long hair, you look like Lil Jon. It's like, are you shitting me, dude? Like,
Yeah.
really? That's where you go with this?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he looked at me and started laughing like it was going to be funny, and I just looked like,
Yeah.
are you...
It's like, that's who, that's, yeah. Or I mean, you get the responses, oh, so you must smoke weed, you got some good weed on you,
all
or
the
something
time.
like that. Yeah,
all
or
the
listen
time.
to
Or
reggae.
you have a lighter, or...
Yeah. Or listen to reggae, Bob Marley. It's like, you know what, tell me 3 other people.
Or I've gotten, I can't remember his name right now, but the one guy, a few people have been like, hey, you look like the guy from Living Color.
Yeah, I got that. I got that not long ago.
When I was a kid, the ones I got were, because I played keyboards, piano, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Automatic go-to.
Yeah.
I look nothing like him.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. I couldn't,
Yeah.
like, anytime I would tell, my friends or whoever I play piano, and they're like, oh, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, right.
It's just, it wasn't funny the first time.
Yeah.
I love Stevie, but that made me kind of shy away. I actually broke. I was like, I don't want to be pigeonholed, and that is kind of, it started me on a path of really not wanting people to think I listened to black music, because I didn't want people to have an expectation of what I was. That was pretty significant for me. And Michael Jackson was the other one, because I look so much like him.
Yeah. Maybe playing rock music was sort of, or even delving into like, the weirder spectrum. Was that a reaction to everybody wanting to call you Stevie Wonder, everybody wanting to call you, Bob Marley or Vernon Reid or whatever? Mm-hmm. Like, did you get into Brandon Patton? Did you dive into that stuff just to even further separate yourself? Was it, do you think, or like, it's like, you know what, I'm gonna rock the hell out, I'm gonna do this, because this is what I love to do. Was it a fuel for you?
I think probably so. I mean, it's definitely one of those things. I do it because I love that that kind of music more so than anything. But definitely wanting to make stand out from all the different things we get, whether it be he's got long hair, he's probably in a gang, or he's because when I started working at the bank on the Hill.
Yeah.
Like my first few days there, within the first few months, I started in July, and then the Michael Brown shooting happened, and I'm working drive up. Guy comes up to the commercial window, and he's like, "You're not from where all that stuff's happening, are you?" I'm like, "No, motherfucker, I live 5 minutes that way."
Yeah. Yeah.
I live in the city. I don't live in Ferguson because I have hair like this, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing to live in Ferguson, but don't just assume because I look a certain way that I'm from wherever you think I should be from.
Yeah. That he places you out there for whatever reason. Yeah.
Or I've gotten like people come in and say, "Hey, you look like you should be robbing the bank instead of working here." And thought it was supposed to be funny.
Wow.
But it's like I just went and told my boss, but there was nothing I can do because it's customer service.
Always right.
Yeah.
I can't really say, "Hey, fuck you."
Yeah. If you want to keep your job.
I'm not doing this transaction because you're an asshole. But.
What was your first exposure to seeing a black rock musician? And
Well,
talk about that a little bit.
My first exposure to seeing a black rock musician was probably, with my dad and everything, watching like Earth, Wind and Fire and that kind of thing. Like seeing, what is it, Verdell White or Vernell? Verdine, yeah. Seeing Verdine up there, doing his thing, rocking out.
Yeah.
It's like nobody else does, like no one else does
Nobody
it like
can.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just insane, but I think that was one of the first times I can remember seeing like a black musician like on TV or whatever, in their place, in their zone, I guess.
In his element, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was 1989 was the year. 88, 89. Because before that I had been into punk, listened to hardcore. That was all I was listening to for probably 3 or 4 years. But when I was in college, Fishbone came to my school, and they needed volunteer roadies to load stuff in and out, and I saw them, and they just had this swagger that, I mean, I knew about them, and I think I'd heard their EP, but I didn't really know their music. And I saw that show, and that was like, they're the best live band in the world. You know, they pulled it off so well, and I was like, I want to do that someday. Maybe not that same exact version, but that level of musicianship, that level of stage presence, I never got there. But and then later that year, Living Colour put out their debut album, and I remember I was at my uncle's house, and I had MTV on randomly, and that video, Cult of Personality, came on, and it was like the hardest hitting. Yeah, I mean, I was like, now I know this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I got to somehow, do that.
Right.
That was really a pivotal moment for me. That not only can black musicians play rock, and then Bad Brains album Quickness, like maybe a year, I think that was 91, came out, and those 3 bands are totally so influential on black musicians and white musicians because they're at the top of their game, where they were then. Yeah.
They were doing it the best out of anybody. Right. So race wasn't an issue at that point.
In different genres, but they were all killing it. And so that was kind of, I mean, with this project that you and I are in, all 3 of us, I was like, St. Louis doesn't really have that, and it turns out kind of do. I just didn't know it. But those bands that were so influential on me, I was like remembering how that felt in 1989, 1990, 91. I wanted to do that, and haven't till now. So this has been kind of a long path. Yeah, but I think I'm here.
How we sort of came together, and actually our first interaction, what led us to, the lyrical content, and we've talked about that story, and I know that's my story, but I'll reiterate that. But talk about what you were going through at that time.
Yeah, I was in XOX, and I didn't really have much creative input. As a bass player, you really have to push to be the one that, and not a lyricist, so to be the person that makes the songs do things. It's a tough position to be in. It's like being a catcher on a baseball team, and you just
and you want to tell the outfield
right. It's an important job, but it's not the most influential. It's hard to be in the driver's seat as a bass player. So anyway, I was feeling the urge to do something else, to kind of maybe drive a little bit. And I've been feeling that for like a year or so, maybe 2 years, and then the Trump thing happened. And I felt a feeling that I had back, when I was a kid, this like anger and fear and wanting to do something political and do it from my perspective, as a black man in America who, may be hated for who I am, without even, with the person not even knowing who I am, but they could still hate me.
But what you look like,
I was feeling things that I hadn't really felt for a long time. I'd gotten kind of comfortable, and this made me push out of my comfort zone and want to really say something. And I'm not a lyricist at all. I tried, and I cannot do it. So I knew I needed to, reach out to somebody else. And so, I was, like I said a few minutes ago, I wanted to do this thing that reminded me of those all-black rock bands, and I reached out to Chan because he was a black rock musician, the only one I knew of in the city, or one of the few, and you and I had never talked, but you seemed like the right person to go to at least approach. And so I cold called,
Yeah.
Facebook messaged,
Yeah.
and you seemed receptive. And it seemed like you had been kind of feeling the same way about the political climate and cultural climate and this shift that was happening towards this, like a conservative push, and wanting to speak out on that.
Yeah. You know, the Facebook world is just this tin can that everybody's stuck in. Sometimes, you know, there's just a, what do they call it, hive mind, or the echo chamber. Did you feel any of those pressures? I mean, and there are political leanings within this band. We're not a political band, You People, but there's definite reflections of that. And did you feel that you needed to express any of that kind of thing? You know, whether it was with this band, or have you ever felt like that's, you know, any sort of a reaction to how did you feel about the election and the awful things this man was saying, and then all of a sudden he's a president, you know?
Oh yeah, it was.
How did you feel about that?
Well, with that, like with the whole election and everything, I definitely felt like the country took a step backward. Like it hadn't taken that many forward from, you know, I guess my perspective. Like, you know, of course there was progression made, but it just seemed like it was all erased when that you know, that election happened. That result came in, and I was like, you know, I stood there and was like, is America still this bad that we, you know, there's enough people to vote for this guy to say, hey, this is how we feel about this, you know, this is how we still feel in this country. Yeah. It's just like shocking. I was mystified that that was even a possibility, to be honest. But
like, would you, if you could encourage or say something to blacks and, you know, kids, women, you know, boys, men, you know, that want to get into music, would you encourage it any further?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think you'd say? Like, any of your experiences tell you, you know, give them advice?
Well, I'd definitely say, like, here's some stuff you might see, you know, if you choose to go this route, but definitely persevere, because nothing will change if you just bow out and you know, don't stand for what you believe. Yeah.
Brandon Mason?
I think you're asking two separate questions.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. The one question is, are there going to be more blacks in rock? And
or should there be?
Right. I mean, definitely there should be. I don't know that I've seen more necessarily. The culture's a little different. Like, it's not as political to have a single black member in a rock band. I don't think that's. I mean,
happenstance.
Yeah, it happens all the time. To have an all-black band is a little more rare, and that you could call that political, maybe. I don't know that that's going to change a lot. I wish it would, because I think it'd be great. It'd be awesome. And the other question is, will there be more blacks making political music? And I think we're ripe for it. I mean, you look at what happened in the 80s, the Reagan era. It was rich with music in a lot of different genres, and it was political, and it had things to say. In hip-hop, and rock, punk, metal. There was all these subcultures, and I think, I mean, it's hard to tell the future, and art is really hard to tell the future of art, what the next thing is going to be. But I think it's time for something new.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll happen, but
what if you can think of it pretty quickly. Like, what would you say to get Brandon Mason still? What would you say to get to talk, more black kids, boys and girls alike? Especially women. We need more women in rock and roll for sure.
Yeah.
What would you say to get them excited about rock and roll and on the path?
If you can see it, you can do it. If you have an idea, do whatever it takes. Don't let anybody talk you out of it. That's the kind of regret you don't have to have and shouldn't have. Just DIY it. There's so many resources now for musicians. Make electronic music. You can do that for free, almost free if you have a computer. There's all people are a lot more accepting of avant-garde stuff. This is really made with whatever you have at hand. And with the internet, SoundCloud, Facebook, Bandcamp, there's a lot of ways to get your music out. So just do it.
So what if you could go back in time and see your future, your past self? Is there anything that you would tell yourself that would get you into it sooner?
Yeah, because I definitely wish I would have started the first chance I had to start playing and get into music. But I think I got discouraged, so I think I'd go if I had a chance to talk to my past self. I'd say. Well, first of all, it's not impossible. I mean, you have to put work in, if you want to get better, but it's not impossible, and there's times it'll get frustrating, but push through it.
Yeah.
It'll get better.
Yeah. The one that I think of, like any of those older guys that were always yelling, play some Skinner or whatever. It's like, you know what? You're going to die before me. So I'm going to keep doing this.
What I would tell myself when I was younger is you can do this. Don't wait for somebody to tell you can, or that you're good enough to do it, or that whether or not people will like you, just do it. It can be a slog sometimes before people get into what you're doing or before you're good enough to get up in front of people. But I can't tell you how many people I come across as an adult that are like, I used to play guitar, I wanted to be in a band, but I never did. Or I wish I still played, or I wish I had picked it up. Don't do that. Just play, get out there.